All right, let's get going. So vets, military family partners, and sponsor, welcome to a special vet present value advisory event. This one featuring Navy vet, senior civil servant, and author, Thomas Braden. So today we're going to focus on tactics, techniques, and procedures, or TTPs, for a transition from military service to leadership as a federal employee. And it's a topic which Tom literally wrote the book on, or at least a book, titled The Veteran's Guide to Transition, Active Duty to Government Service. So we're really honored to have him here to discuss both his own journey as well as then the contents of that book. Before we dive in, though, some quick admin items. Forum rules first. Mute your microphones while listening, please. If you can, turn on your chat or turn on your video as well. It's always great for speakers to be able to see who you are, and it makes everyone feel more engaged. Send questions in chat or raise your hand as they come to you. Wait to be called on by a host. And then when you're called on, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who you are, what program you're in, if you're at Smith, otherwise what partner you're affiliated with or what you do. And that way we can all kind of get to know each other as we go through the event as well. Second, a moment, as always, for our comrades, to honor our comrades who can't join us today because they're deployed either in military service or as members of other uniformed services. Okay, thanks. Also, a note that as referenced in the invitation, the session is recorded for post to platforms that allow access by Maryland students, alumni, and community partners. We do try to make the recordings public as well. So your participation from this point on implies consent. And we'd also ask you to kind of watch your language, et cetera, so that you can help us not spend a lot of time editing as we go public. So thank you. Okay, a warm welcome then to some special Maryland Smith partners who have been invited today. If you're here, thanks to our relationship with the Alliance of Veterans affiliated with Big Ten Business Schools, 4Block, Corporate Gray, eMentor, or the Mid-Atlantic Veteran Business Outreach Center, then we're thrilled to have you. Thanks for coming. Next, a little bit of context for the event. Our Vet Present Value Advisory events are part of Maryland Smith's broader initiative for veteran lifelong leadership, which is our way of promoting veterans as strategic assets for a united economy. Reach out to me or anyone else at Smith if you'd like to learn more about our mission platforms or partners. Now to the event, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Captain Retired U.S. Navy Tom Braden. Tom is a Naval Academy graduate. He has a master's in organizational management. He spent his Navy career as a naval aviator in leadership positions ranging from JO up through officer, JO up through command, and then in major staff. He was an HR advisor for a period after his active duty time with USAID in Indonesia. And he's currently now a DoD senior civil servant, naval policy expert at joining us from Naples, Italy, actually. He's an author, obviously by implication of the book that you see. And you can follow his musings about military to active duty service with the hashtag on social media, AD to GS. So Tom, thanks for joining us. The mic is yours.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate you having me here this evening, and I appreciate everybody showing up to listen in and hopefully learn a little something about my journey and about this little book that I threw together. So before I start, I just want to give my preamble. I'm not here to sell you anything. Frank won't even let me sell my book. He's going to give it to you all for showing up. So that's a little disappointing, but I'm joking in that I am not here to sell you anything. I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm just here to share a little bit of what we in the Navy would call the gouge and just kind of share my experience with you. And hopefully that will allow you all to learn a little bit of something from my mistakes, perhaps. But Before I begin, just a real quick bio. Frank covered most of the highlights, but I'm just a simple guy from New Jersey who always knew since I was about 8 years old that I was going to run off and join the Navy. Don't know why exactly, but that's what I always said I want to do. And look, here I am today. Then when I got out of the Navy, nobody could believe I had stayed in for 27 years. All of my classmates from the academy, most people I served with were a little surprised. So was I. It was one tour at a time, much like most of you, 1 year at a time, one tour at a time, one good decision after another led to something else. And here I am, still working for the Navy now as a civilian. So it's been a great and enjoyable ride. And I really came back to the Navy and came back to government service for two reasons. And I'm going to get to this in a minute. But one, my wife is a government civilian, which she picked up when she was with me here in Naples, Italy, on an active duty tour. And it was perhaps the easiest way to have two competitive, careers together if we're both working for the federal government. And the other one, probably more importantly than the first, was that I still felt like I had something to give. It's funny when guys were leaving at, 27, 23, 20 some years of service. Some people felt like, oh man, I'm quitting. And I'm like, what do you mean you're quitting? You did a whole career, you're retiring. But even at 27 years, I still felt like I had something to give. So now I'm back as kind of the old gray beard, quite literally at times. And it's a unique position to be in, and I'm absolutely enjoying it. And so that leads into a little bit of why I wanted to write the book. I wanted to come back to government service, as I said, because my wife, who I met on the best tour that kept me in the Navy, happens to be Australian. And we've always been sort of an international family, and we've wanted to live abroad. So while I was finishing up on active duty, we were both looking for overseas opportunities. And she found one in Jakarta, Indonesia. So I quickly put in my retirement papers and made my exodus and followed her to Jakarta, Indonesia. And I thought, great, Jakarta, very relatively cheap place to live. My wife has a good job. I won't have to work. I can just do yoga all the time and enjoy myself. Well, about 3 months later, I was not terribly bored, but kind of bored, learning to fill your day and to not spend a lot of money and to not start drinking until, a reasonable hour of, say, 12 or 1 o'clock. The struggle is real. So a job came available at USAID, which is a great, fantastic organization where a lot of our military skills are easily translatable to what it is they're also doing. And I was fortunate enough to get picked up with them as a human resources advisor. I didn't really do all that much human resources advising, but they had fully overhauled their pay and personnel and evaluation system for their local hires, about 100 staff. They had thrown out the old one, but they hadn't really created a new one, and they brought me on board to do that. So it was a great opportunity working for some really smart, talented people. But it's a totally different culture. So I learned quite a little bit about myself and about USAID and working in the embassy construct. The easiest, most translatable thing that I learned there was they in state and age don't have what we in the military would call the hot seat kind of complex. Like today, Frank and I are working together and Frank's, on the boss's short list, and he's all in Frank's business about whatever Frank owes him, whatever's due. So what do we do in the military? Dude, what can I do for you? I know the boss is in your business today. How can I help you? Because you're in the hot seat. And we have that culture of helping one another out, because next week I'm going to be in the hot seat. And next week, I'm going to want Frank to do my TPS reports so I can focus on whatever the boss needs me to do. Boy, they do not have that concept at state or USAID. So that was a very interesting, about 2 years. And then we got kicked out due to COVID. So when we got kicked out back to the United States for COVID, my wife, again, the government civilian, they said they were going to send her to Bahrain. I didn't really want to go to Bahrain. But she applied for a job in Bahrain and had also applied for a job in Naples, Italy, and was offered both. So she was sort of dual tracking them when I saw a job in Naples that I applied for and also got selected for. And voila, a year later, literally 10 months for me, 12 months for her, we landed in Naples, Italy. So Frank also asked me to address, so why did I write a book? Well, I wrote a book because one didn't exist. And now maybe somebody can Google or Amazon and find me one that does exist. but I had been observing my wife, who was a government civil servant for about 10 years now. And I'd been watching her lumps and bumps. And at some point years ago, I started keeping a little bit of a log of some of the bumps and issues she encountered. I think there may be a few spouses out there that are listening in. Spouse hire and some of those special hiring authorities. We were talking before, I think it was Jeremy, who's maybe going to use one of those special hiring authorities. I would just say that it might be special, but there might be a reason that it's special. So you just have to watch all of those P's and Q's that you don't really know when you're going through the process. Specific for my wife, who was hired when I was here on active duty in Naples, Italy, she was hired through competitive hiring process. She outcompeted a couple of people we knew who were competing for the position. But since she was a spouse, she was hired with baseline salary, nothing else. And she was hired under a special authority as basically a term service employee. So her service in the government was limited to my set of orders in Naples, Italy. And as soon as we left Naples, Italy, she was no longer a government servant. The bad part about that is we didn't learn that at day one. We didn't learn that at year one. 3 years into her position, she loved it so much, I took another job in Naples, Italy, because we thought we were investing in her position here. So 2 years later, we're now getting ready to leave Naples, Italy. And she's like, oh, now I'm going to find a job in Washington, D.C., where we're going next. Only to find out she had zero status the day we left Naples, Italy. All because of some code that goes into your SF-50 or your official file when you're hired in a term service position. So I would just say OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, has lots of great information available online. They even have a place where you can submit a trouble ticket and ask questions. That if you're going to be hired under special hiring mechanisms of any sort, including as a disabled veteran, including as a direct hire, you should really run some of those things to ground and talk to other people who've been down that road before, because at some point you might make a decision based on certain assumptions that may or may not prove to be valid. So I think that's all my big preamble. And Frank has told me most of you all have already done your transition out and already done everything like that. I just need to stomp my foot on one or two things. If you haven't done your VA paperwork, get off your butts and do your VA paperwork now. You're never going to have more time than as a full-time student to get this stuff done. And I'm telling you, it's very important, particularly if you're going to go and try to get a government job. Why is it important? You've got to do all your VA stuff. You submit your paperwork and they kick it back to you and you submit it again. You go get some physicals. You go through all of the hoopla. But in the end, the VA is going to give you a disability rating. And that disability rating will assist you in many things. But since we're talking about looking for jobs with USA Jobs or with the federal government, it's going to give you a federal hiring preference. Me, after retiring from the military at 27 years, my federal hiring preference was 0. In the book, which again, Frank's going to send you a link, there's a Department of Labor website you can go to and you can fill in your data. It takes about 3 minutes. You answer a couple questions and it'll tell you what your hiring preference will be. But if you're an 04 or better retiring, and this probably isn't many of you, if any of you, and you have a pension, your hiring preference is 0, unless you have a VA disability rating or there are some other clauses. And some of the other clauses might apply if you served in a combat zone, if. The hard part about those other clauses is proving that to the HR manager and making sure that the HR manager knows to give you the 10-point veterans preference or 5-point veterans preference for hiring. It's complicated. The best thing I can tell you is do your damn VA paperwork and get that rolling, because that will help you when you're applying for federal jobs. 2 other points on the VA stuff. If you're found to be or rated to be disabled, and that can be a 0% disability rating all the way up to 100% disability rating, you can get free medical care. And you can get care for those conditions that they take care of, that they have listed as disabilities or military related. You want that because you might get a job in the future where your healthcare says those are pre-existing conditions and they don't want to cover them or might not cover them as well as the VA does for free. The second part about that is if you have greater than a 30% disability, you might actually get a check from the VA, which is tax-free. If you don't want free money, that's tax-free free money, there are thousands of organizations that you could take that tax-free money and donate it to every month. Mine are called Connor and Chase, my children, but that's a different story. So do your VA stuff. Your family will thank you for it, and you'll be glad you did it later on. And one other note on that, if you're looking at life insurance somewhere in this gonculator, you want to get your life insurance purchased before you get your VA rating, because once you get your VA rating and they determine you're X% disabled, you may have to disclose that to your life insurance company, and your life insurance rates may go up. So I think those are the big things I wanted to cover about sort of transition, VA, and getting set up. Now I just want to shape your expectations very quickly. And this may be different for many of you who are getting MBAs and going into finance. When I was retiring from the military, I kept a close kind of knit group of people who I was often comparing notes with. There was about 30 05s and 06s retiring from the Pentagon, different cohort than yours. But of those 30, only 5 or 6 of them went out and made more money in their first jobs post-Navy than they were making in the Navy. And of those 5 or 6, 2 or 3 worked for Amazon. One was a business development guy for In Situ Boeing. And the other one walked into a golden parachute, and he runs Omni Air International. But the point is, at least for the guys retiring, different cohort than you, you may or may not make more money than you did in the military. So I'm just sort of shaping expectations, and I hope that that's good. And why is that important? And a lot of this conversation thus far has been about money, and later on it's going to be more about money. It's not so much about the money, it's about fully understanding where you and your family are today and where you need to be when you take that job, right? You should really have a figure in your head that says, I'm not getting out of bed for less than X. And maybe it's 0. I don't know. Maybe if you're passionate about, I happen to really enjoy working with NATO, and I am passionate about it. I don't know that I'd get out of bed every day for free to do it, but the number's probably lower. If you wanted me to be an accountant, the number is probably higher, and I probably wouldn't be very good at it. But the point is, you should have some range of numbers in your head based on, location, vocation, how much money do they need to pay you to do that? So you should just think those things through, and then just to shape expectations with the rest of your family, your spouse, your ex-spouse, your kids, your ex-kids, just to make sure that everyone is fully witting and understanding of this huge change that you're going through. Now, most of you have already done most of that as you transitioned out into business school or students, but it's always worth noting that as you go through these transformations, graduating from your MBA program or school and going on to whatever your next thing is, that there's going to be some changes, and you ought to bring everybody on board with what it is that you're currently facing. Struggles, challenges, financials, or otherwise. On that note, bringing everybody on board, my next thing is to talk about is mentoring. And that's part of what I think I'm doing here today, and networking. And that's part of what I hope you are all doing here. And I think when Frank pushes out the link posts event today with the link to the book and all the other things, that maybe you can all collaborate together and work together. Because networking, or what I like to call next working, is the only way to go. Now, there's a great tool for that. You all know it. It's called LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a wonderful tool to use for your networking and next working, hooking up with people that you haven't talked to in years, people that you don't even know, you only know them virtually. And I would say, if you would like to find me on there, go ahead. And if there's any information I can share with you or make introductions, I absolutely will. So the more specific criteria to that next working, and LinkedIn has a couple of tools on there. USO Transitions is a great free resource on there. And they will often host seminars for an hour or 2 that teach you how to use LinkedIn better. And I would tell you, those are worth your time. One of the guys who hosts them is Michael Quinn, but any of the USO Transitions are really good. There's another guy on there who focuses a lot on VA veterans veterans benefits. And his name is Tyrone Hewitt. He's fantastic. But I would say use all of the resources that you can that are out there for free, and a lot of them on LinkedIn, and through those resources and others, to really get to, I think, the key to figuring out what it is you want to do next. And that's an informational interview. So if you think you want to be an accountant, you might want to go and, take your kid to work day with an accountant and see what it is they really do all day, and, walk a day in their shoes and ask all the stupid questions from an accountant. And if you don't know any accountants, I'm sure somebody on LinkedIn that knows somebody who would make an introduction, and they would probably be happy to share what it is that they do and teach you all about it and allow you to ask those questions that maybe you wouldn't want to do either in an email or over the phone, or you wouldn't even think to ask if you didn't go and do an informational interview, have a cup of coffee and talk to an actual accountant and go, oh, so that's what you do, before you decide what it is you're going to do. And one other note on this is, as you're doing all of these things for whatever you think you want to do next, and you have those informational interviews, you should talk to those people to find out what are the civilian certifications that one would have to apply for this level of job or for that level of job, so that you can understand how and where you can get those. Again, there are free resources out there. I know this is University of Maryland, but if you haven't heard of the University of Syracuse, they also offer some programs free to veterans who are in transition to get PMPs, human resource management certificates, all those sorts of qualifications. I would encourage you to check them out. University of Syracuse, they have a veterans program as well. Again, free resources. You can find them on LinkedIn or on Facebook or LinkedIn. And as you're doing those interviews and you're talking to other people, you need to shop around. This isn't the military. I don't care which branch you were in or what you did in the military. It's a marketplace. And there are people out there who are consuming, and there are those people who are contributing, right? And you're a consumer and you're a contributor in this marketplace. And you kind of need to learn your place in the marketplace and figure out, really, when it comes down to it, what's your niche and what's your value. A lot of military guys get out and they think, oh, well, I'm a leader. I'm a specialist because I'm a leader. No, nobody's hiring for a leader. They're hiring for discrete skills that they need to fill today. You might get promoted in the future because of your leadership, management, supervisory experience, and those types of things. But that's rarely what anybody is looking to hire. They're looking to hire for a discrete set of skills today. Your other skills that you've learned and grown and mentored in the military will come in later and certainly help you when you're looking for a promotion. So again, informational interviews, talking to people is the best way to find out, because we're coming from one community and you're looking to join a completely other one. It's always good to have those informational interviews and ask the stupid questions that you wouldn't think to ask. So looking through my notes here. Okay, so talking a little bit about my journey. So I retired in July of 2018, as I said, followed my wife to Jakarta, Indonesia. We got kicked out to COVID, came back to Washington, DC. I immediately had a job interview in Naples, Italy, and that was in like June 29th. July 10th, they called and offered me the job, and I had a year of sitting around waiting. The process is long and laborious. So I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just trying to shape and manage your expectations that if you want to get a job with the federal government, the quickest it's probably going to be is 3 or 4 months. And that's if you live, 2 miles from the base that's going to hire you. It's just a long, laborious process. So be patient, be informed, and find some other way to devote and spend your time. So if you're a full-time student, now is the time to apply. I would say a minimum of 6 months out, because it takes 6 months about. You might be the quicker one who gets hired in 3 months. If you're going overseas, it's going to take probably more like 10 months. The federal government, my son on his first day working as an intern at the government in Jakarta, he comes home and we're having dinner, and I said, so what'd you think? He's like, moving at the speed of government. So we'll move at the speed of government. So the book was really a way of me to fill that year of time as I waited, because I thought I have this job. I was offered it on July 10th. I'll take the summer off. I'll be there in September, October. It'll be perfect. September of October of almost the following year that it took that long. But while I had that time and went through the process, I found that the process was not being run basically like any of you would know in the military, just an instruction. Now there's reams of instruction for the Office of Personnel Management on opm.gov website, but there's an instruction. They're supposed to follow a process. And what I learned was many of the HR technicians who happened to be, when I was hired, local Italian nationals, weren't following the instruction. They were just doing like we've always done. And at one point, the process was so broken that me, as the brand new GS-14 hire off the street, they said, oh, that's easy, Mr. Braden. We're going to make your wife a GS-15. We're going to make her your dependent. And she can just come over here and we'll cancel this, this, and that for her. And you'll get this, this, and that. And I was like, that's like morally bankrupt. She's, been investing as a government employee for 10 years. And you're going to take away benefits to give them to me. It was just a really poorly run HR organization. So I started looking things up on OPM because I was familiar with that, having fought some of my wife's previous battles with her, that I started collecting all these lessons learned. And at the time, one of my other friends, one of the 6 who had gone out and gotten a job in business development, was now coming back to the government. I sent him all these notes. Dude, as you're getting hired, look at this, look at that, look at this. And he was like, this is really good. You should write a book. And my wife was like, please write a book, do something, because I was sitting around for about 8 months while the kids were at home, going to school from home. My wife was working from home, and I was at home doing nothing but yoga and I guess driving everybody nuts. So I devoted myself to writing a book. So
we're glad you did, Tom. So I want to make sure that we get into the question period, because I know you touched on a lot of different themes and recommendations, and I want to give folks the opportunity to dive into them and ask how they might apply to their specific situation. So
okay, can I hit my top 10 real quick, and then we'll do it? Give me
okay,
3 minutes.
sure, go for it.
Okay, so my top number 1, I already told you, you got to get your VA determination. Number 2, you need a federal resume. Federal resume is not a normal 2-page resume. The gold standard for your federal resume is a gal named Catherine Troutman. I wouldn't advise you buy her book. I'm not here to sell you anything, but what I advise you to do is go to the library and get her book out for free and go through the book. It's pretty good. And so is the USA Jobs. They have a resume builder on there. Use that. Number 3, USA Jobs is a beast. If you haven't used USA Jobs, there are some training tutorials online. I suggest you use them, or follow USA Jobs on LinkedIn. They often offer training. I tell you to do that. Number 4, the best way most military guys and gals learn is by doing. Find a job that you don't really care to get, that somehow meets your skill sets, and apply for it. You will learn by doing, because the system is not very good. The Veterans Council, if you don't know what I'm talking about, write it down. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you can find it. The Veterans Council, for any agency in the federal government that you might apply to, they have a veterans representative that you can email and directly reach out and ask them if you have questions, or, hey, how come I didn't make the cert for that position? I thought I was competitive. Some are more responsive than others, but they're out there. This is more gouge, but go where you're wanted. If you were last working at Pax River and the guys in Pax River know you, know your name, apply for jobs at Pax River, at least to start, because it's always nice to know where you're already a known quantity. On interviews, once you make it to the interview, you just got to practice, do your research, ask questions ahead of time if you can. Informational interviews with people who are part of the same organization always helps. This one's got a lot wrapped into it, but number 8, if you're offered a position, don't believe what you hear. Even though it's the federal government, you can ask for more money. You can ask for moving money. You can ask for additional leave. And if you did your VA paperwork and you're a disabled veteran above 30%, you get 104 hours of disabled veterans leave. That's like 2 weeks and 2.5 weeks or something of additional time off. And the purpose of that time off is you have to use it in your first year, and it's for catching up on all of your VA appointments, medical stuff, and everything like that. And that's an entitlement, but you need to ask for it. If you didn't ask for it, you don't get it. Once you're on board, you get the Federal Employees Retirement System, TSP with matching, which is pretty good. They'll match 1%, free money. Why leave it on the table? And then lastly, you know, leading and joining an organization that's larger than yourself is my top 10 list on why you should become a GS. And now we can go to the questions, Frank. Thank you.
Oh, that's great, Tom. And so where I'd like to start is by calling on the 5 people that we had submit pre-submitted questions as part of their registration to go ahead and dive into those questions. So we had Ricky Snell, who's a Smith alumni, submitted a question about that first job that you alluded to. And Ricky, are you with us? And would you like to field your question? Okay. I saw Ricky join, but he may not be available to ask the question. So I'm going to go ahead and ask it for him. He says, you know, how important was or is the first job out of transition towards charting a career in the federal government?
So I'll give you the lawyer answer. It depends. My first job was more location driven, right? We moved to Jakarta, Indonesia. And so my first job was what's available in Jakarta. I didn't speak Bahasa Indonesia, so I wasn't going to find a job in the local economy. Local economy pays peanuts generally, so I wasn't probably going to work. So I was limited to finding a job at the US embassies. So that was location for me, vice vocation. But I joined a great team and I learned a lot, and it was really interesting. And I was a contractor, to be clear, when I worked with USAID. When you join the federal government, your first job is important because let's say you're a spouse serving overseas and you just say, oh, while I'm serving here in Naples, I just really want to do something. So I take a job as a GS7. It's going to take you forever. Even if while you're doing that GS7 job, maybe you go back to school and you get your bachelor's and you get your master's and you're still a GS7, and now all of a sudden you want to apply for, you know, GS13 jobs. It's very unlikely you're going to be able to jump from a GS7 to a GS13 or 14, even though you may have the experience now. Once you're in the federal system, you're almost not forever held to that, but you have to have a year or two at the previous level to go up to it. So there's no way a 7 is going to go to a 13. She would have to go to an 8 or a 9, or he would have to go from a 9 to a 10. So your first level almost fixes you for the next couple of years. It's important.
Right. No, great. Thanks for that. That's hugely important. Okay, Walter Alvarez is joining us actually from an initiative partner here, 4Block. Walter, you had a question about you know, moving from, you know, recommendation to referral to interview. Would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you, Thomas, for that great information, for your experience. And I'm going to 4Block as a student, and I'm getting my SPHR actually with the IBMF, Syracuse University that you mentioned. So that was great information. But I'm transitioning from HR after 25 years. And I'm getting referred to a lot of the hiring managers across, you know, the USA jobs. So for some reason, I'm not getting no one interview. And that was my question to you. How do we get from being referred to the hiring managers to the actual interview? In your experience, what does that look like? Thank you.
Yeah, so it's a good question. Not to put you on the spot, but have you done your VA paperwork?
I actually just got it back. So in the previous applications, just as you mentioned, I was after 25 years, top of the enlisted rank, 0 preference. So thank you for that. So that clarified a lot of my issues. But now when I start applying, I will be able to upload that SF-15 along with the VA letter that I just got this week. Thank you.
Amen. You're getting it. So I wouldn't say that in a larger crowd, but absolutely. this is more experiential than necessarily true. But I will tell you, I have also hired a few people in the federal government. And if you're a disabled veteran with 30% or greater, and I'm not putting you on the spot, but if you are, I am, just for example, you're what most hiring managers would call a blocker. I can't hire anyone else for that position until I determine you're incapable of doing it. So let's say you applied for a position and you make the cert and it goes to the hiring manager, and there's 10 people on the list for the manager to look at, potentially to interview. And 3 of them have VA paperwork that say they're disabled veterans at 30% or above. That means they're a 10-point veterans preference hiring, what colloquially, if I could say that, people call a blocker. They have to look at those 3 people first, and they have to say, Jonesy can't do it, Braden sure as hell can't do it, and Smith, well, he might be able to do it. And they interview Smith, and if Smith hits it out of the park, they're never going to look at the other 7. Again, that is my experience of how it's done. So number one thing I tell you, get your VA disability paperwork and submit it in. That should help. The second thing I would tell you is that every job on USA Jobs, and this is in the book too, and every job has a job questionnaire. So usually before you hit submit, there's a questionnaire, and it says, are you a US citizen? Have you ever robbed a bank? Have you ever tried to overthrow the government? And then the rest of the questions are, where do you fall on this range of skills, this KSAs? And what it really is, it's a self-guided quiz. If you're not answering, that I am capable of not only doing the job, but writing the policy to show others how to do the job, but I've been responsible for training other people. If you're not giving the highest category, I forget if it goes A to E or 1 to 5, whatever the category is, if you're able to honestly answer, the highest category on each of those job questionnaires, then you're getting close, because that ends up being a score. And when they print out all of the possible people they're going to interview, you're kind of racked and stacked against your own self-evaluation. But some HR technician then goes through and says, okay, he says he's not only just the guy who can do the job, he wrote the policy to do the job, and he can train others to do the job. They try to look on your resume and say, where is that? So what you really should do is do the job questionnaire early, and you can do it without submitting it or print it out. And then you have to make sure that in your resume for that job, you explicitly call out when and where you had done those things, so that the GS 5, 7 HR tech who's reviewing hundreds of these things, it jumps off the page at him. Yep. So those would be my other ones. And then my last point on this would be next working. I already talked about it. Networking, next working. Just because it's a federal job doesn't mean you shouldn't be networking with somebody. If you were applying for a job here in Naples, Italy, you'd be like, who's that guy? Talk to us about his book. And you find me on LinkedIn, you send me a note and say, hey, I'm applying for a job at, CNA 6th Fleet in Naples, Italy. What can you tell me? I'll probably send you the website, but I can give you a little bit of inside gouge. Hey, there's 600 of us here. There's about 150 civilians. Just having that little bit of situational awareness against other people who might not have done that level of networking or informational interview with somebody who actually works there. I think a lot of people assume you can't do that because it's the federal government. And I would tell you that's not true. You should still be doing it. Is it going to break the bank? Is it going to get you the job over somebody else? I don't know, but I would tell you to still do it. So those are my gems of wisdom on getting from cert to interview.
Terrific. Thanks, Tom. The next person I'd like to call on is Ed Young, actually one of our Smith MBAs. Edward, I see you up there. Are you available to ask your question, or would you like me to ask it?
I'm available to ask the question. I might want to kind of rephrase a little bit, since we did kind of go over it. But my original question is like, what is a good way to set myself up for transferring from my current job in the Navy to a specific area in government, like such as economic policy or foreign policy? And then as well, I think it's just like more so like also leveraging like the fact that like using my current security clearance.
Okay, good question. Well asked. I've kind of beat this drum on informational interviews, and I would say informational interviews with people who are in a job or position that you think you would be interested in. So talking to those folks and figuring out what exactly their path was, and as you'll find, there is no one path. And then creating a map of this is where I am today. This is where the position is that I would like to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I don't know. And then sort of mapping a path for yourself to get there. I don't know your specialty, Edward. I'm sorry, I can't give you a lot more than that. But I would say you can't do number 2 and number 3, your current set and, standard Delta management from business case, right? Without number 1, which is the informational interview and talking to people who are in those positions. And if you don't know anybody who's in the position that you think you would like, LinkedIn is the best tool I can tell you to just start reaching out, and friend of a friend of a friend gets you to the right person. If you already have a security clearance, I would say that is a significant leg up. It's probably not supposed to be. It's probably not something the hiring manager is supposed to consider. But think about it. The hiring manager is usually the guy or gal you're going to work for. And the hiring manager needs a butt and a seat to do some work today or tomorrow. And if he loves Tom Braden, but Edward's got a security clearance and Edward lives 10 miles from the base, those are some intangibles that the hiring manager is going to have to really wrestle with. And they're people, they're real people. If he interviews you and me and he thinks we're both equally competent, but I'm going to take 10 months to get my security clearance and your paperwork's going to be done in 10 weeks, I'd say you have a leg up. So I would also emphasize that you have your security clearance on your resume, in your cover sheet, your cover letter, and in your interview. I would foot stomp that somewhere, maybe at the end, the beginning, maybe ask a question. I currently have a security clearance. Will this new position allow me to keep that up? Over.
Ed, you got any follow-up to that? Questions?
I have no follow-up. Thank you so much.
Great. I'm going to jump in with a follow-up then on that I sometimes get asked. So Tom, you said the security clearance, obviously it can be a game changer in the decision-making process or the hiring process. What about, vets who maybe were out for a couple of years and their security clearance is not active, but they had one in the past?
Yeah, again, that's going to depend on your field of contenders. What are the other people who are also applying for the job? Do they have current security clearances? But I think if you've had one, it shows the federal government or the hiring manager, you're likely to be able to get another one, right? And I think there's a difference between you've been out and it's been expired for 2 months or 20 years. Certainly there's a difference there, but largely. But I also, I wrote a couple articles about security clearances as well. If you have a current security clearance and you want to keep it active, you can go on a couple of websites that are out there. If you Google them, clearedjobs.com, clearancejobs.com, but I get no money. I'm not making anything off this, but there are websites out there who will want to body shop you just to have your security clearance. Some of them quite lucrative, but you might be placed in the federal government, but you're a contractor working for some other company. It's worth looking at if that's what you want to do, at least to keep it active, particularly if while you're waiting for that government job to come through, which sometimes takes 6, 10 months or a year. And the other thing I have to mention, when I was last in the US, I was surprised at the ubiquitous use of marijuana everywhere. So I'm not casting dispersions on anybody who chooses to do that, but the federal government still doesn't recognize it. So if you have a security clearance, one of the first things you're going to do in the hiring process is you're going to have to do urinalysis. Whether marijuana is legal or legal for you or legal in your state, I don't know. I don't care. I just say, make sure you know what you know before you're making any of those choices. It could affect your security clearance. Also, buying marijuana stocks will affect your security clearance if you have to disclose that.
Man, so I just learned that. I had no idea. I got to check my portfolio. All right. We actually had a submitted question from Christy Burkhalter, who's came our way through another partner, eMentor. I don't see Christy here. Christy, are you here? Okay. So I'd like to then go ahead and move to a question submitted in the chat by Candace. So Candace, would you like to ask your question.
Sure, I can ask it. I'm currently active duty still until the end of the year. Is it possible to submit for jobs outside of the DoD positions?
Yes. So if you're on active duty, there's a 6-month, I don't know, waiting period, I guess is probably a better term for it. But anyway, if you're active duty DoD and you want to apply for positions in the DoD, you have to wait 6 months. But if you apply for a job with the Department of Agriculture or USAID or anywhere else, there is no waiting period for you. It's only DoD to DoD. There are waivers for that, particularly if you're going for I'm at GS, which is government service. But there are other positions called GG. A lot of them are in the intel field, and some of them are direct hire authorities. There are waivers that get around the 6-month, even within DoD. But I would just caution everybody, again, I cover it a little bit in the book, and you can go to the OPM website and look it up. You should know the differences when you're hired and what that means. Does that mean that in 3 years you have to go to another position, or 3 years you don't have a job? All of those things are good to know. But if you go to another agency, you do not have to wait 6 months. And if you are going to try to find a job with the DoD, I'd apply, because DoD ain't going to do nothing in 6 months or less. So start applying now.
Great, thank you.
Good stuff. Scott, you've been checking the chat. Do we have any other questions waiting for the field?
I don't see any other questions from the field. I actually have a question myself, if that's all right for me to ask. So yeah, Scott McGilvery, first year MBA student. Tom, thanks for being here this afternoon. So my question is, for those of us who are full-time students, or for those of us who maybe took a position in a corporate gig after transitioning from the military, essentially, for those of us who have kind of extended that transition, have you seen any sort of unique challenges with extending that transition?
You mean extending the transition and then coming back to the government service?
Exactly.
No, I think most of the people between the 6-month gap in hiring, I think, let me back up, I'm sorry. The 6-month waiting period to go from active duty to government service has always been a law. But after September 11th, they waived it. So from 1991 until 2018, I think, or 2019, it's been waived. So there were a lot of people who left active duty and came back to the government service right away. Nowadays, with having to wait 6 months, a lot of people don't want to wait 6 months. So a lot of people will leave and go and do something else for a year or 2 or 3, and then come back to government service. So I don't think you would be, unique by any means, particularly if, you said, well, it's not like I went and did nothing for those 2 years. It's not like I went and worked at Walmart for that time. I went back, I invested in myself, I got an MBA. Yes, I did a little bit of finance at a bank or something like that, but now I bring that to you. I think it makes you a more well-rounded candidate, a little bit perhaps more mature. And I don't mean age or anything like that. I just mean that you've had more experience. So you bring that back to the government. And that's definitely a strong suit, particularly I think in the finance, because a lot of the government finance people are kind of raised in the government finance, and bringing somebody in who has a little bit of outside skill set is certainly looked favorably upon.
Awesome. That's good to know. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, great advice. And actually, on that note, we're working with we're partnering with the Office of Secretary of Defense as financial management, actually comptroller agency, specifically because just what you say, Tom, they're eager to get private sector finance experience into the federal government, since DoD has yet to pass a private sector audit, actually, which they are required to do, but they're the last agency to be able to clear that hurdle. Zach, I think I saw your hand go up.
Yes, Frank, I was gonna, if we still have time, I just want to shoot a quick one in there. So thank you for your presentation so far, Thomas. Thanks so much. Kind of building off what we were talking about earlier, and then kind of got held. I will read the book and try to learn more. But so as an MBA student, second year, graduating in May, I've been applying to a couple positions, and then all falls out to be essentially, eligible for a GS9 position. And I know you kind of spoke more about where you're starting off kind of helps or kind of sets the trajectory for the future over the next few years. So with that being said, since I'm more or less kind of going to be put into a GS9 position if I were to get hired somewhere, how would you go about negotiating the steps that are within the GS scale then to like try to help benefit yourself on the compensation side?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's nothing wrong. Please don't take it as starting as a GS9. I would ask a few questions while you're getting hired. What's the next step? Not step 1, 2, 3. Does it go GS9, 10, 11, or is it GS9, 11? I think a lot of positions skip 10. I think it's usually 7, 9, 11, and then it goes 11, 12, 13, blah, blah. So I would ask that though, upon hiring, what's next promotion wise? So that is, they call those ladder positions. And oftentimes they'll hire somebody at a 9, and then after they complete their degree, they go to an 11. And after a couple of years of experience, then they go to a 13. So they can go 7, 9, 11, or 9, 11, 13. They often have ladder positions. So I would ask about that. Hey, is this a ladder position? Is it eligible to be converted to a ladder position? No harm in asking, right? You asked about steps specifically. So in the federal system, you're largely paid for longevity. If you're hired, generally they're going to hire you as a step 1. You can look at the job description as a GS9. It probably doesn't require an MBA, which is what you're getting, right? So I don't know what the education requirement is, but my guess is you exceed the education requirement. You may have other experiences that also exceed the experiences. And you can ask for, and I have it in my book, I got to look for exactly what the term is called. You can ask for, you can ask for a step increase, but exceptional qualifications is specifically what it's called. It's in chapter 5. I even give you a memo on what you should submit. Clearly change my name to your name and, submit your exceptional qualifications. But what you need to do is you need to look at what did the job requirements. And if the job requirements was a high school diploma and 1-year experience, and you've got a bachelor's, a master's, not only a master's, but an MBA and 3 years experience, you submit a memo and you say, because of those things, I would like to request a step increase. Okay, it's not huge money, but hey, every dollar counts. And I would just shape your expectations. And again, it's in the book. You can't ask to go from a step 1 to a step 10. That's unlikely to happen. But you can ask to go from a step 1 to a step 3, which is probably an extra, I don't know, $2,000 or $3,000 a year. Okay, it doesn't break the bank, and it's easy for them to do. If you try to go above 3 or 4 steps, I would ask for 4 and take 3 happily. But if you ask to go for 4, they may have to send it out of their agency hands all the way back to Washington, D.C. for approval. And it may not be worth that little, the $3,000 you're going to get delayed in your hiring by a month, and that's $3,000 right there. So I would say ask for 1, 2, or 3 step increase from what they offer you. That would be my advice, based on your exceptional qualifications.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Chapter 5 in the book.
I definitely wrote that down.
Well, thanks, Tom. This has been incredible. We're actually getting to the top of the hour. One thing I'd like to do is before we break, I want to give everyone about 30 seconds for some feedback. Actually, you're going to see a poll on your screen with 5 questions. Please answer each, as honestly as you can. We're all service connected here. We know the importance of a debrief, and we also were issued thick skins. So please let us know your thoughts on it. Hopefully, did you see the screen? Did you see the poll? Give me a thumbs up. Awesome. All right.
Taking it now. Somebody spelled 2 short, 2 wrong.
Oh, well, that would be me. So you're right, actually.
Number 1 lesson when writing your book: edit, 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 edit.
There you go. All right, I think we're at 90% participation, so thank you. I'm not going to share it if you guys don't mind. We don't need to, but it did come in good. You got great reviews, Tom. So thank you. People are eager for more, so they're definitely going to be looking for the book. We will be sending out that book link. Actually, you'll expect an email, so keep an eye out for that. Tom, really can't thank you enough. I'll connect with you. A small token of our appreciation will be heading your way in the mail. It'll get there as fast as the FBOAE service, can allow. And then, for everyone, this will be recorded. It has been recorded. It will be posted to our Initiative for Veteran Lifelong Leadership webpage. So keep an eye out for that. Tom, you can feel free to share it with anyone who might want to see your performance. I know I'll be sharing it with everyone who has questions about federal government employment, because I think a lot of the stuff in this was gold.
Thank you very much for having me, and I appreciate everybody's time here. If there's anything that you have a specific question you want to reach out to me, Frank has my email. It's also in the book. You can reach out to me or find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer any questions. It's a little bit of a time delay, so email is probably the best, or LinkedIn. And if you find the book at all worthwhile, please give me a shout out on LinkedIn or share it with your friends or whatever. I'm not out to make money off it. I'm out to share the gouge. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and end the event. A good night to you, Tom. Keep us safe over there. Keep the world from falling apart. And a good night, for everyone else. Have a great weekend.
Same out here.